If I were to ask the average person who played Resident Evil Village what is their most favorite or most memorable part of the game, a good portion would probably say the segment in House Beneviento. And who could blame them? It's definitely the best horror element of this game. It definitely stands out, and it also tells a really good story that hits very close to home. But what if I also tell you this same segment just doesn't work, and more importantly, just doesn't fit and belong in this game at all? You might look at me like I'm crazy, and maybe I am, but unfortunately, it really sticks out like a sore thumb, for good and for worse. What is up? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day. Back here with some more Resident Evil Village gameplay for you. And today I'm going to be taking on a topic that may seem a little bit controversial, because whenever you talk about House Beneviento, you always talk about it with the best of intentions. But unfortunately, I'm going to actually have to throw a little bit of shade on it. But before you click dislike or get mad, at least hear me out, because I think by the end of what I'm trying to make as my point, I think a lot of people will understand what I'm ultimately trying to say. Because it's not necessarily a knock on a scene, because ultimately it really has nothing to do with what the scene does. But I want to get to how I believe that this scene, this ultimately doesn't work. And the key words is doesn't work in this game. But to understand why it doesn't work, I think we first need to go over the whole sequence in check to show about what we're talking about, what makes this sequence, this whole house so impactful, and why so many people have such an impression of it. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. House Beneviento starts even before you get into the house, where you start to hallucinate seeing images of Mia as well as Rose, and Ethan wondering if he's hallucinating. So it already has you affected even before you even take a step in the house. And this ultimately complies to the whole notion that, is Ethan even hallucinating? Is what even happened real? He starts to, wonder what in the world is really going on here. Like, his daughter, he's trying to put her back together. He's still kind of in the shock of that. His wife is dead, and he's wondering if his whole marriage was legit. He's wondering so many things that he never meant to question before. So it already leaves you in a pretty insecure feeling right from the get-go. That it's basically got you thinking how many different conspiracies have really happened. When you finally go up to the elevator and get to that house, I gotta say, I love this shot, by the way. I think this might be my favorite shot. I actually like this even more than the castle itself. And that's saying something, because the castle is a very impressive spectacle to look at from a distance. But I just like this whole notion, this little manor house kind of off the side of a mountain with the waterfall. So it really sets a really nice picture, because once you get inside the house, and you might not notice it immediately, it's a pretty well-looking house. It's pretty well-maintained. Looks like any normal house you would walk into. It looks pretty rich and well taken care of, but ultimately a ploy for what's to come. Eventually, you make your way down through another elevator to get to this one room where it has a doll holding the flask of your daughter Rose, one of the 4 that you're supposed to collect. And it seems like it's easy enough, but obviously something's going to happen, and it does. Once you seemingly take it, you hear the doll talking to you, as well as having all of your weapons stripped of you, giving you a sense of vulnerability that, you're not going to be able to attack and get out of this way. You're going to have to use your brain, and you're going to have to figure it out for yourself, as well as the flash disappearing as well. And that's where I said earlier that this starts to hit a little bit closer to home more than usual. You notice that there's a mannequin on the table, and it has a striking resemblance to your seemingly dead wife, Mia, on top of a picture of her being murdered as well. And it makes you, not just you the player, but also gives a sense of Ethan really is questioning, why is this happening? What is the purpose of this? And slowly you start to realize that this hits really, really deep as you go through the mannequin and you have to seemingly take it apart and get more pieces to the puzzle. You slowly start to get pieces of the whole sequence of Mia and Ethan eventually having a marriage, getting married, and then ultimately having the joy of their life, their greatest pride and joy, their daughter Rose being born. And it seems like, well, this person definitely wants to get deep psychologically inside of you. And you also have things where you'll hear voices in the background basically going through your whole life cycle as if they know your life possibly even better than you. And it kind of gives a really bit of an unsettling vibe to it, as if you're just watching scenes of how this whole segment of Rose came into this world play out right in front of you, but done in a creepy setting. Because ultimately, how would somebody ultimately have all this information and knowledge better than you yourself, the father of the whole situation? So it definitely does a really good job of making this segment. The atmosphere is really set up because any type of time you hear any type of noise or something falling in the background or a door opening, it definitely keeps you a little bit on edge because, as I said, you don't have any weapons. You don't have any means to really defend yourself. So little by little, you put pieces of the puzzle together. You slowly start to get more and more items to get you out of this thing. And I think the implement of a lot of these puzzles and things is really well done. They're not necessarily the hardest things in the world, but because they're so personal, it seems like a really personalized tale done well. And I think that this whole segment really executes that really well. I think it's in part why it's so memorable, because it's not just you going through segments A to B. You have a really personalized goal for doing it. Not just to collect the flask, to put your daughter together, but even see moments through Ethan, even question, did these moments really happen the way he thought they did, or is there means for error, means to think, hey, maybe this whole thing isn't as subtle and safe and sound as we thought they were. Here you have a really nice segment here where you have to get the film strips of personalized moments in your life together to get this whole videotape on the film play, which definitely is taken straight out of The Ring. And I like how it's done, how it's shot really unsettling, knowing that eventually you're going to have to go there yourself. And hey, it's Resident Evil. It's never been shot have a few things similar to other horror movies. Like, Resident Evil 7 is very close to the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And these are things I definitely like, and little resemblances we definitely do like with these games. But nonetheless, yes, you're going to have to ultimately go down that well. On top of the fact that in the very next sequence, when this door opens up behind the bookshelf, you obviously have to grab some scissors, but you're surrounded by a bunch of dolls. And yeah, nothing screams, I love you, like being surrounded by a bunch of dolls, which will come into play later on in this whole segment. You also have fake calls out, make you even more insecure about what really happened. Or maybe it's just someone trying to get into your head. But either way, you start questioning a lot of things as you, the player, as well as Ethan himself. So you're in a very vulnerable and insecure segment as this whole sequence plays out. And then seeing more hallucinations of Mia. You're just wondering, where is this all leading to? What does this person ultimately want to do? Ultimately trying to tell you? Well, they're going to tell you something, alright. And trust me, it's something worse than nightmares. But you begin to undress more the mannequin, get more pieces to the puzzle to eventually get you through a door. As this scene and the environment changes, the more you get closer to your ultimate objective. I love the whole sequence leading up to this next scene where you go through this whole stairwell, and obviously it's homage to the scene from Resident Evil 7 with Mia coming up the stairs and you going down the stairs. So it gives you that little PTSD moment. Oh, is that going to happen? It doesn't, but it's in your mind, especially the first time you play it. And then you get to the well, and obviously having that little baby bed rocking gives a little bit of an unsettling vibe. And eventually realizing, yep, you're going to have to go down this well. It's not something you want to do, but unfortunately, you're going to have to. And as you make your way down, you finally get the next key to get to your next area. But as you're climbing up, you hear a big crash, and you hear this sound. A very distinct sound that you know exactly what it is. And normally when you hear that sound, you think, hey, it's the beginning of life. But not this time. Oh no, your hairs are standing up, your fight and flight reflexes are going off. You know that it's not what it seems in this sequence. And with everything being dark and just that eerie atmosphere, that baby crying is not meaning what you think it is. And as you cut the corner and go back into the main room, you see something on the ground. And when you finally realize what it is, being a bloody umbilical cord, yeah, your deepest fears are slowly being realized. And unfortunately, you slowly follow this thing in a dark hallway as it keeps on going infinitely around the ground. And as you cut that corner and you slowly keep moving, you start to hear something. And when you finally see it, oh, it's a moment. It's a very, very eerie moment. Stuff made of nightmares. And when you finally see it, yeah. What they say, it's time to get the hell out of Dodge and run. And this is a very well set up sequence. But it definitely has an excellent whole story told, as well as a journey, going through the journey of Ethan's, birth with Rose, and seeing the whole sequence with his wife, and him even questioning and seeing things in a way that hits really deep at home, and then seeing this monstrosity come to life. Yeah, it definitely has an excellent payoff. It's a very well done sequence that really feels very personal, very close to home. On top of the fact that you're already vulnerable and you can't really fight this thing, but you have to avoid it, it really, really, really is executed really well. It's why it's no surprise to me that this is the sequence that most people say is overall the best and most memorable in Resident Evil Village. And who can argue with it? I don't think there's really anything that they could have remotely done even better with this sequence. It's just something that really hits very close to home, makes you question your whole marriage with Mia, your whole birth with Rose, whether it happened the way you thought it did, what the main intent of this whole sequence is, as well as just how insecure and fearful it can be. And as a father, it's got to be Ethan's worst nightmare come to realize. And it's really well done. But eventually, after you do play Reno and Rosie with the baby, you eventually do find a means to get out of here. But not before the baby gives you one last little charge just to make you think, damn, that was really close. Obviously, it's a little bit scripted here, but nonetheless, it doesn't change the fact that the first time you go through this, it definitely leaves you on edge. It's a very well sequenced, and hearing that thing cry and you get away from it is definitely relief. But it's not over for this whole House Beneviento, because you still got to get the flash for Rose. And as you go up through the elevator, you are once again welcomed with a whole room of dolls. And that's where you get to the whole main arching force of this house. And eventually you have to chase around and defeat the main doll, or the other dolls are going to take you out for good. And I'll admit, this scene starts out good. It's probably the weakest sequence of the whole thing, ultimately, just because it's kind of more straightforward. Just find a doll hiding amongst the others and basically stab him to death with scissors. I mean, it's not bad, but compared to everything else, it kind of just is more straightforward, if you get my drift. But nonetheless, this thing has to end eventually. And eventually you do put the doll down, and you eventually do get the flash. You get the little trophies you can sell to the Duke to get more money. And you eventually get your means to finally leave House Beneviento with the flash you ultimately were searching out for in the first place. And that is ultimately the end of this whole segment. Now, you're probably wondering, I've been really positive about this whole sequence. I said it's a really executed, well done sequence. It tells a really good story. It's very close at home. And it seems like it's one of those things that will definitely stand out. But recall I said that it stands out for good and worse at the beginning of this video, like a sore thumb. And that's where I'm going with all this. You see, I'm on the belief, and I had a tough time trying to figure out how I wanted to explain this. I was wondering if I was going to go the route of one and done. It's one of those sequences that you play once, but it's not something you're really eager to go through again once you know how it's done, which is true. It's the one weakness of a scene like this is it's not something you necessarily want to do again in replayability. But I decided, you know what, I was going to go that route. Where I have my problem with the scene is not the scene itself. The problem is that this whole scene just doesn't work, but in this game. See, when you play Resident Evil Village, if I told you to take this whole scene, the house, out of your mind like it didn't exist, and go through the rest of the game, like there was only 3 flashes, not 4, you start to realize that this scene just doesn't fit the tone and vibe of this game at all. It seems like a scene just taken completely from another game, but then it ended up in this one. Because the rest of Resident Evil Village is nothing like this. I mean, you're basically going guns, balls to the wall, shooting up everything. You have a few moments of like you're dodging things or running around or solving puzzles, but it's never like this. You're never completely vulnerable like this, especially not without your weapons. You're not solving a whole long puzzle of your life and stuff. I mean, you get moments, but never to this degree. I mean, most of the time, you're just having your guns shooting up an infinite army of lycans, flying creatures. You're fighting tall vampire ladies. You're fighting, metal manipulating beings. You're fighting shapeshifters. Or you're fighting undersea water fishermen. And it seems like, wow, it seems like a completely different game than what you do in this whole sequence. I guess what I'm ultimately trying to say is, I think this whole sequence is too good to be in this game. And that's the irony of it. Is it just seems like it's a really well done sequence, but it just doesn't fit this game. I mean, I'm happy it's here, but it feels so out of place when you compare it to the rest of this game. It feels like it would fit maybe another franchise, let alone Resident Evil. Because as I say, it's a really well done storytelling sequence of the game. It tells a really deep, personal, scarring, and very unsettling story about seeing the whole seemingly birth of your daughter. I feel like this is something you would see in other horror games, or at the very least another Resident Evil game and not this one. And I think that's my whole main point with this. It's why the scene doesn't work, because it just shouldn't be in this game. It should be in another game that's more personal, especially with the way the rest of the gameplay and segments go. It's almost as if this moment, this whole scene, was more like a checkbox, and we have to have that one scene like this. And for good or for worse, I'm happy the scene was made into the game, but also it makes me wonder, what if the rest of the tone of the game was similar to this? Would that have made a better game? Because imagine if all the other Flasks had personalized ways that were kind of like this, as if each other Flask was adding another piece to the puzzle, seemingly how you added another Flask to put rows together. So I'm just asking questions, I don't know, but at the end of the day, I hope I made my points clear and concise. I'm not knocking the scene, I think it's excellent, but it just doesn't feel like it belongs in this game in particular, and maybe even possibly this franchise. But that is my opinion. I want to hear your guys' opinion. How do you feel about this sequence? Do you feel like it doesn't belong in this game and it feels out of place? Is it so well done that it just is maybe too well done? It's too good for its own good to be in this game? And does it belong probably in other games or maybe even another franchise? Let me know down in the comment section down below. But thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. And hopefully I see you guys back in the next one. Thanks, and I'll see you all later. Peace.